Okay, so let's dive right into it. You've probably seen the headlines recently, right? About influencer Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Big news.
Exactly. And our sources for this deep dive, reports from the BBC, The Guardian, they really lay out a pretty clear picture of this significant legal situation they're now facing in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And importantly, how it sort of overlaps with everything else that's been happening with them internationally.
Right. And what's really fascinating here, and what these sources let us really get into, is the specific legal action. What the UK prosecutors are actually doing.
Okay.
We can look at exactly what charges have been authorized, where they stem from, and like you said, the really complex international stuff around their potential extradition back to the UK. It's complicated.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
So our mission here in this deep dive is to basically pull out the most important bits from these reports, the key details, the timeline, the legal knots, if you will, so you can quickly cut through the noise and really understand the core of this situation.
Yeah, because it involves really serious allegations spanning years, different countries.
Okay, so let's start with the central piece of news, the big announcement that both our sources highlight.
Which is that UK prosecutors, specifically the Crown Prosecution Service, the CPS, they've now authorized charges against both Andrew and Tristan Tate.
Right, authorized charges. And how many are we talking about?
The reports say a total of 21 charges against the two brothers combined.
21. Wow. And when did this authorization actually happen?
According to the sources, this was in 2024. It came after the CPS got a file of evidence from Bedfordshire Police.
Okay, so 2024, based on evidence from a specific UK police force. Mm-hmm. Looking at the sources, what kind of offenses exactly are we talking about with these 21 charges?
Well, the sources list things like rape, actual bodily harm, ABH, and human trafficking.
Okay.
And the reports also specifically mention that Andrew Tate faces an additional charge related to controlling prostitution for gain.
Yeah, a very serious list of alleged offenses. How do those 21 charges break down between the two brothers then, according to the sources?
So Andrew Tate, who's 38, he faces 10 of those charges.
10 for him.
Yeah, and these are reportedly connected to 3 alleged victims, and they include rape, ABH, human trafficking, and that specific charge of controlling prostitution for gain.
Got it. And Tristan?
Tristan Tate, who's 36, he faces the other 11 charges.
Okay.
His charges are reportedly connected to 1 alleged victim and include rape, ABH, and human trafficking as well.
Okay, understood. Now, this is where the UK context gets, particularly interesting. The sources actually specify a time frame for when these alleged UK offenses supposedly took place.
That's right. The reports state quite clearly that the alleged offenses in the UK date back quite a way to between 2012 and 2015.
Wow. 2012 to 2015. So these allegations, they go back nearly a decade, maybe more, before the charges were even authorized in 2024. That time gap itself is, it's striking.
It really is.
And the brothers, they also have a history in the UK, right? The sources touch on this.
They do, yeah. The BBC and Guardian reports note they're British Americans. They actually moved to Luton in the UK with their mother after their parents' divorce.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, their father was an American chess master, an Air Force surgeon, and their mother was a British catering assistant. So yeah, they definitely have roots in the UK.
Okay, that adds important context. Now, it's absolutely crucial, I think, to understand that these UK charges, they aren't happening in, a vacuum, right?
Not at all.
The brothers are also deeply involved in ongoing legal processes, facing charges in Romania.
Exactly. That's a key point the sources emphasize. The Romanian situation is very much still active. And just like with the UK charges, they deny all the allegations they face in Romania, too.
Right. Denial across the board.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the specific types of allegations they're facing prosecution for in Romania, according to these reports?
Okay, so the sources detail allegations there, including human trafficking, forming a criminal gang to sexually exploit women. Though it's worth noting the reports say that specific case was actually sent back to prosecutors for a review.
Oh, okay.
And also allegations of sexual intercourse with a minor and trafficking underage persons.
But another set of very serious allegations over there. And this all kicked off, really, with their initial arrest in Romania back in December 2022, right? And then they spent time under house arrest.
Correct. That arrest was really the start of the Romanian legal process that's, still unfolding today.
So how does this Romanian legal situation How does it interact with these new UK charges? And this whole idea of potentially bringing them back to the UK, it seems like where it gets really complex.
Yeah, this is where the whole extradition thing comes into play. It's central now. The sources report that a European arrest warrant linked to these UK allegations authorized in 2024 was issued by Bedfordshire Police back in England.
Okay, so the UK issued a warrant, and that warrant directly led to them being detained again, but in Bucharest.
Yes, exactly. They were detained in Bucharest in March 2024, specifically based on that European arrest warrant from the UK.
Right. But then there was a really significant ruling by the Romanian court about this UK request, wasn't there?
There was a really crucial decision. The Romanian court basically ruled that, yes, they did order the extradition of Andrew and Tristan Tate to the UK.
Okay.
But, and this is the big but, only after the domestic criminal proceedings against them in Romania are finished.
Ah, okay. So Romania essentially gets priority. Their legal system has to run its course before any potential transfer to the UK can happen.
Exactly. Sequence is key here.
Okay. And the reports then mentioned they were released from custody in Romania after that ruling.
Yeah.
And there was also something notable about their travel earlier this year, something about a ban being lifted.
Yeah, that was quite unexpected, according to the sources. A 2-year travel ban they were under was lifted earlier this year. And following that, in February 2025, they reportedly flew from Romania to Florida in the U.S. by private jet.
Flew to the U.S., but then they came back to Romania the next month, March 2025.
They did return, yes. And the sources quote them when they got back, saying something like, "Innocent men don't run from anything."
Okay. And they also gave a reason, didn't they, for checking in with the authorities in Bucharest when they returned?
Yeah, they apparently stated they registered as like a legal formality just to show they were complying with the ongoing investigation there. Andrew Tate was also quoted saying he planned to clear his name in both Romania and the UK.
So it's a picture of, wow, international travel happening right alongside these really complex legal battles in two different countries, with one court dictating the order of things.
Pretty much, yeah.
And adding sort of another layer of history to the UK situation. The sources also mention a related civil action, separate from the criminal charges.
That's right. The reports do detail that Andrew Tate is also being sued in a separate civil case in the UK. This involves 4 other women. So yeah, totally distinct from the criminal charges we've been focusing on.
And the significance of this civil case. According to the sources, it connects back to earlier allegations where UK prosecutors actually made a different decision years ago.
Exactly. The reports link this civil suit to a decision the CPS made way back in 2019. Back then, they decided not to prosecute the cases related to these specific women.
Okay.
That followed an investigation by a different police force, Bedfordshire Police, which closed that same year, 2019.
So these are different alleged victims, different historical allegations, where the CPS previously chose not to bring criminal charges, but now there's a civil lawsuit happening.
Right.
The sources also mention comments from lawyers representing some alleged British victims.
They do. They reportedly welcomed the current CPS charges, the ones authorized in 2024, but they also apparently asked the CPS to sort of acknowledge that maybe they made a mistake in not prosecuting those earlier cases involving their clients' cases, where complaints went back as far as 2014.
Wow. It really paints a picture of just how complex the history of these allegations is within the UK system alone. You know, different proceedings, different outcomes, different sets of claims over quite a long period.
Definitely.
And through all of this, the sources are very clear, aren't they, about where the Tate brothers stand on these new charges.
Oh, absolutely. They consistently state that Andrew and Tristan Tate deny all charges against them, both in the UK and in Romania.
Unequivocal denial.
Yeah.
And regarding the specific UK allegations, the sources quote them directly.
Yes, they're quoted as saying they categorically reject all charges and insisting they are very innocent men.
Okay. And it's probably worth noting, too, that the Crown Prosecution Service itself, when they confirmed the charges were authorized, included an important reminder. The sources highlight this.
Yes, they stated very clearly that criminal proceedings are now active, and crucially, that the defendants have the right to a fair trial. And they also specifically cautioned against any reporting, commentary, or, online sharing of information that could potentially prejudice those proceedings.
Which is such a fundamental legal principle, right?
Yes.
Especially in a case like this that gets so much public attention.
Absolutely critical.
So when we sort of step back and look at all these moving parts, you've got the authorized charges from 2024 based on allegations going way back to 2012, 2015. The separate ongoing case in Romania, the extradition ruling that prioritizes Romania finishing first, the reloaded civil case in the UK from even earlier allegations. I mean, why does all of this matter for you to understand?
Well, look, it matters because this whole situation involves a really prominent online figure, someone with a huge following facing incredibly serious allegations. And it gives us a real-world window into how complex these legal processes become when they cross borders, involving different countries, different legal systems, different timelines.
It really does pull back the curtain, doesn't it, on things like international extradition and how it actually works or doesn't work smoothly when there are ongoing cases in different places. It's clearly not always just a straightforward request and handover.
Not at all. And it also really clearly shows the difference between criminal charges, which are brought by the state, the CPS in this case, and civil lawsuits filed by private individuals, even if the underlying issues seem related.
Yeah.
And by digging into the specifics in these sources, you get a much clearer view of the actual legal mechanics and the frankly complicated timelines involved in these high-profile, multi-jurisdictional cases.
Okay, so let's try and pull this together then.
Yeah.
What we've covered in this deep dive. Essentially, UK prosecutors have authorized 21 specific charges against Andrew and Tristan Tate.
Right, charges stemming from allegations going back, in some cases, over a decade, based on evidence gathered by Bedfordshire Police.
And here's where it gets really tangled. While the UK issued that arrest warrant back in 2024 to try and bring them back, the Romanian courts have put a pause on that, ruling that their own ongoing legal process in Romania has to be completed first.
Which sets up this really complex timeline. We've talked about their arrest, house arrest in Romania, the travel ban lift, that trip to the U.S., the return, all happening while these different legal wheels are turning in different countries.
Yeah. What's fascinating here, really digging into the sources, is how a legal process started in the UK in 2024, based on allegations from maybe 2012 to 2015, gets so deeply woven into these ongoing legal fights and extradition complexities across borders right now in 2025.
Exactly. And we also saw how that separate civil case in the UK kind of shines a light on earlier allegations where criminal charges weren't brought previously, adds another historical dimension.
And through it all, it's just vital to remember, as the CPS itself pointed out, these are active criminal proceedings. The right to a fair trial is paramount, and the brothers maintain their complete denial of all charges.
Absolutely. That has to be kept front and center.
So what does this all mean for you listening? Well, it gives you a really concrete look at the specific ways international legal cooperation works, or maybe, sometimes, the specific sequence justice has to follow, and how events from the past connect with legal challenges happening right now across different borders.
And maybe this raises an important question for you to think about. Given that reminder from the CPS about active proceedings and the right to a fair trial, how does the really intense public and online commentary that inevitably surrounds cases like this, how does that intersect with the fundamental legal principle of ensuring a fair trial? Something to consider.